you have to get clarity. What's your target? What's your goal?
We cannot even move forward unless we have a clear vision.
Let's focus on coming up with a solution and then do the thing you want.
Those challenges are what will make you become this best version of yourself.
If you think a little bit of quality time will be enough for your extraordinary family life, you are delusional. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Extraordinary Family Life podcast. We are your hosts, Greg and Rachel Denning, and as always, doing everything in our power to help you create your extraordinary family life and wake up every day happy, well, joyful, excited, fulfilled, like looking forward to living the life you dream of instead of, and as in some cases, the nightmare you're living in, right? Because you're living the family dream. All right, so let's just dive right in. We got an absolutely phenomenal question. We're going to read through the whole question, and then this will probably end up being 2 episodes because the question is so good.
Yes. Okay, so I'm just going to read it, and then we will try to not get distracted and come back to address things.
No promises.
Right. My husband and I are successful real estate brokerage business owners. I'm a driven, focused, successful business woman. I can relate. With a desire to slow down and be the best mom I can be for my kids, to be more present. Being business owners allows for flexibility. We have more options with our time and money than being, quote, hired to work for a company. But it also comes with stress. The goal we have for our children, to love Jesus, to live for him, to be independent, smart, capable individuals, to handle life, to be able to think for themselves and solve problems, to be well-rounded with languages, culture, instruments, history, science, math, English, computer skills, sports, health and fitness, financial management, cooking and cleaning for themselves. And considering homeschooling, I don't want to be the only, quote, teacher in their lives. I want them to experience high levels of learning, to be challenged, and also to experience society at its best and worst. I'm too controlling. I want what's best for our kids, and in my desire to create the above, I'm mean, strict, and controlling, which pushes our kids away and causes resentment. With public school, it gives me a margin to do the things I need to do for work, with afternoons and evenings and weekends to pour into our kids and to teach them. However, I'm very tired, and I feel spread thin with the high expectations I have for myself and them with the 4 kids. And I feel the best hours of their weekdays are being taught and led by underpaid teachers trying to corral the masses. Is learning really even happening? With public school, they get real social experiences in addition to learning. What I would like to consider is there a way where we can homeschool with a better quality education and still create margin for me to get work done and for my kids to have real social experiences that don't just revolve around extracurricular activities? Homeschool kids can be awkward. I don't want socially awkward kids. I also don't want super sheltered kids. I want them to be well-rounded. I'm afraid if I homeschool, I will be overwhelmed. I would rather be kept at a distance to save them from myself. But I would like to believe there is hope that I can actually surprise myself of being good at this and actually want to be good with my kids. And that I'm actually teaching them and I have my emotions under control and I'm the best role model for them. I get overwhelmed, annoyed, and overstimulated. That is not the kind of mom I want to be. And that is not the kind of teacher I want for my kids. I want to be good at this. I want to be better. I don't feel I have enough time to improve on myself to be the mom and teacher I need to be for my kids. I'm super raw, vulnerable, and holding back tears as I write this. I want to believe that I can have an extraordinary family life.
Yes. Oh, man, I want to cheer and
Applaud.
And if we're in person, give her a big hug and like, this is awesome.
This is real. And this is relevant to so many of us. Like so many of us, I think, can relate to this as she is open and vulnerable about sharing her feelings. And it's so beautiful.
Well, and articulating her vision.
Yeah.
As she's describing, she did it so well. Just the vision. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. Yeah. All of it. It's beautiful.
So I think we are planning to specifically dive into the homeschooling aspect of it in the next episode. But in this one, we want to talk about the other aspects, specifically the controlling, the, being the best mom that you can, fulfilling that role, not being overwhelmed, not being frustrated, or at least mitigating that overwhelm and frustration, that's the aspect that we want to dive in today. So
As you were reading it again, Rach, I thought there's these two big parts. One is getting clear on like what it is we really want for our family. So everyone listening is like, you have to get clarity. What's your target? What's your goal? What's the long game?
what's the vision?
What's the vision? And you've got to have a vision.
Yeah, because without a vision, the people
perish, right? From
Families perish.
the good book. And families perish, individuals perish, and life perishes. It's just it's lame. And you can't hit a target you don't have, and you can't hit a target you can't see. So you've got to get clear about what it is you want. But here's and this is something I want to share.
Sorry, can I geek out on that for 1 second before you get to your next point? Jordan Peterson often emphasizes, and this also comes from all of the things they're learning about how AI operates, is that as humans, and they're learning this by the way computers and artificial intelligence works, we cannot even move forward unless we have a clear vision. Now that of course includes micro visions, which connect into the bigger visions, but like I can't go to pick up a cup to drink from it unless I have a clear vision of what I'm doing. And we think that, oh, that's just automatic. I don't even have to think about it. But when we're children, especially, and we're learning that skill so that then it does become automatic, that's how our systems work. It has to have a very clear and specific vision. And I know for me, especially, whenever my vision is muddy, that's when I feel the most overwhelmed. It's when I have a very clear vision and I know exactly how, which I think you're going to get to next, exactly how to do it, what to work on to get that, to move towards that vision. That's when I feel the most clarity, certainty, purpose, confidence, peace in my life. So having that vision, macro and micro visions, are key to us even being able to function in the world.
Mm-hmm. And one of the most common challenges I see with all the great people I get to work with and coach is that, and she even articulates this in her question so well. It's like, this is what I want for my family. Here's my weakness. Here are some of the obstacles I'm facing, just the realities. And so I'm doing this over here.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait a minute. Whoa. And I see this a lot. In fact, I had another coaching client this week, same situation. It's like, I want this. Here's the challenge. So I'm doing this over here. And it's like almost unrelated. I'm like, well, wait, what does this have to do with that? And she says it in there. She's like, well, I'll just send him to school because I struggle with this thing. I'm like, no, let's focus on coming up with a solution to the problem. And then do the thing you want. So I guess that's what I want to say right out the gates here.
This was the point that I interrupted?
Yes. Get clear on what you want and then address the obstacles that are in the way. Don't deviate. Sometimes we see what we want. We see an obstacle. We feel overwhelmed. We feel like I struggle with that. So I'm just going to go over here. And we take a tangent. And what we're doing is acquiescing. We're settling
in a way.
We're avoiding. We're doing whatever. And we're like, that's really, truly the path I want to go up. But I know it'll be hard for me and I can see the obstacles. So I'm going to take this other path over here.
That at the time seems a little bit easier, a little simpler, a little more straightforward.
All of the things.
Yeah.
But ultimately that path doesn't take you where you want to go. Exactly. So one goes up to the summit, the other just goes around the mountain perpetually. Right. And you're like, man, I really want to go up there, but that looks hard. So I'll take this one over here. And so you just go around and around the mountain and your whole life you'll live with disappointments.
Yeah.
And frustrations because you never summited. You never went up where you wanted to go.
Right.
And you're like, well, yeah, but if I go up, that means I have to face these obstacles. I have to overcome my weaknesses. Yeah, exactly. That's great. And that's why Rachel and I do what we do. We're going to give you the tools and strategies to get through those obstacles and around those obstacles and over those obstacles and overcome your weaknesses. It's all through leverage and tools and systems. Yeah. So you get the right systems in place. You're like, oh, there goes the problem that was preventing me from what I really wanted. So that's what we're going to talk about in this episode and the next. Go after what you want and address the issue that stands in front of you in the path you want to be on. Don't start wandering off on other paths. It just leads to a life of disappointment.
Well, because, of course, there's a book out there by this title called The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. And he took his entire premise from, I think it's Marcus Aurelius. And the wording is in exactly the same.
The impediment. He says Marcus Aurelius wrote in his personal journal, we often think the impediment is in the way,
stands in the way,
but the impediment is the way.
right. And essentially what that means is that the very thing that we are afraid of, the very thing that's overwhelming us, when we face it head on and move into it and lean into it, that is the thing that actually helps us grow into the person who can then achieve whatever it is we envision achieving,
Exactly.
right? So she has this beautiful vision here of what she would like to achieve. And because
all of that
of the obstacles,
hinges on her working through those obstacles.
Right. So, currently, because of the obstacles, which are legitimate obstacles, she kind of buffers to this other path. But the key is what people often don't understand that you talk about in your coaching a lot is no, head back onto that path you want, lean into those challenges, and those challenges are what will make you become this best version of yourself.
Exactly.
So that you can have this dream that you achieve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the extraordinary family life you want is on the other side of those very obstacles. And in this case, as it's so relatable, getting overwhelmed, not
Getting frustrated,
how to do it,
not knowing how to mold the outcomes you want without being controlling.
And controlling was the other one. It's like, oh, I'll be too controlling.
How to do all of that without being mean.
And being a crazy person. You're like, I never intended to be the crazy person. I want a great relationship with my kids. I want my kids to have a great education. Like, I don't know how to do it. I know my tendencies, so maybe I'll take this other path. And we're saying, no, stick on the path you want and figure out how to fix the things. And that's why we're here to help.
Right. Exactly.
So let's start into the question again and hit some of the specifics.
Okay. So they're very driven, which is awesome. You and I are both very driven.
What's being articulated here is most of the people we get to work with is ambitious, driven, like big goals and dreams and high standards. That's a great thing.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And it brings with it all of these other challenges that she articulated with. So I guess the big thing is like, you're not alone. And the people listening, I'm sure, can relate. Like, I want all these great things too. And wow, it's a lot.
Yeah. So I love this here though, because almost right away in the first paragraph, she says that she is driven and focused and successful with a desire to slow down and be the best mom I can be for my kids, to be more present.
Yep.
And so she's recognizing that dissonance that's occurring, like, well, I am all of these things and apparently she's good at it and it's fulfilling and it's motivating, but at the same time she's noticing, well, wait, I'm not that present with my kids. I'm going too fast, right? Because kids do require that. They require that slowness, for us to be with them in the moment.
And presence.
Yeah, and our presence.
And man, I gotta drop a hammer here. So many people, especially ambitious people, are shouting this message of quality over quantity. Yeah. And I say bogus. That is an absolute myth. And if you think a little bit of quality time will be enough for your extraordinary family life, you are delusional. They need quantity as well. So we have to have quality and quantity.
Yeah. And in fact, there's a lot of research now, I think specifically from like Erica Comeiser, that backs that up. You have to have not just quality time, but quantity time, especially during key developmental phases of a child's life.
Which is 0 to 25.
Yeah, pretty much.
It is. Like, let's just be real. That's the uncomfortable truth.
Right.
You need to be.
Now, if you had to pick and choose, there are some ages where Comeiser specifically says are more important. But I do agree with you that really it is through that entire growing phase. Now, that doesn't mean that there's times as they grow where you'll have more freedom to work on, growing your business and doing all these other things. But certainly, for sure, 0 to 3, and I would even say 0 to 6, you need to be there as much as possible so that the attachment and the bond will build. Because the more you and I have somehow figured this out in our parenting journey and we're able to parent this way And now we're finding the work of researchers which are supporting this. That is the key to achieving the vision that you want. Whatever vision you have with your family, if you could boil it down to its essence, it would be attachment. You learn how to truly attach with your children, and you will be able to achieve
Connection is probably a word we would use more than attachment.
Yeah, but I'm liking that word more and more. Attachment, bonding, connection, building the emotional bank account. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to word it. But at its essence, if you focus on that, you will be able to do all the other things you want to do with creating your extraordinary family life, because you will have the bond, the attachment required to be able to help facilitate those things happening. So that to me is the essence. And in order for that to happen, you have to spend both the quality and the quantity time with your children, ideally from 0 to 25, but definitely for sure from 0 to 6. And then
from 6 to 25.
And then from 6 to 25. Exactly.
So you can take a day off after the 6th birthday.
People are listening to you thinking, oh, that's just not reasonable, Greg. I have to work. I have to pay the bills. I have to
buckle up. We are very unreasonable people.
Yeah. And we'll get into this more about why.
And there's a way to do it. That's what I'm saying. Right. So I don't want to be like, hey, do the impossible. And you're like, that's impossible. I can't do it. Like, no, there's ways to pull it off. And that's what we're going to talk about. Yeah. The first thing she says, though, is really important for ambitious, driven people, is we have to force ourselves to stop.
Yes.
We have to be able to turn it off. And entrepreneurs, business owners, high achievers are like, I just go, go, go. And like, no, you have to set up your own boundaries. Now, the great thing about having your own business, like she says, is like, I don't have a boss telling me when I have to work. Yeah, but you also don't have somebody telling you.
You also don't have a boss telling you when to not work.
Like, go home, stop. So you actually have to put your own boundaries in place and honor your boundaries. That's why it's so important to create a plan and honor the plan.
Yeah.
To create a schedule and honor the schedule, and set up systems that help you keep your boundaries and your commitments. So as important it is to get the work in, it's just as important
to stop doing the work.
Turn off
exactly
from work. And so you're either fully engaged or strategically disengaged.
Yes. And I think that is also so important for your children as well, because as you are building a bond and a relationship and attachment with your child, they need to know what to expect from you, and they need to be able to trust what you say you will do. So if you tell them, hey, I'm going to work until this time, and you don't honor that, you're breaking your attachment with your child.
And destroying trust.
And destroying trust, which is a foundation for that. So you have to set up those boundaries, and then you have to honor those boundaries, not only for your own well-being, but for the development of that attachment relationship with your child. But the beautiful thing is when you do that, so, as we're giving strategies here, this is a strategy that you and I use. For me, I call it time chunking, just because, I don't know, that works for me. But I have chunks of time throughout my day, and I honor those chunks. And I also set up boundaries with them. So in the morning time, that chunk of time is for me. That's my personal morning routine. And I will have my 8-year-old sometimes come to me and be like, can you print something out for me from the computer? Because that's her obsession right now. And I have to tell her, no, right now is my morning routine time. I don't do printing for you during this time, right? I will do printing for you when I'm at my computer. And I set these clear boundaries and these clear expectations so she knows what to do. But one of the reasons she doesn't have a complete meltdown and freak out like I know other children can do is because she trusts me. She knows when I say I'll print it later, I'm going to print it later. It's going to happen. She knows that. So she trusts that. And so even when I'm putting up a boundary and not doing something for her that she wants me to do in that moment, I'm still building the relationship because I'm following through and because I have fallen through in the past, right? So it's building that bond. But so I start with the morning chunk, the morning routine. Then we do workout time, which we often do as a family, not necessarily everyone, but a lot of everyone is there. Then we do breakfast and devotional time as a family, which leads right into their studies, although a lot of my kids get up and do their studies right away. So they're often done by then. And then I go to my work time, right? And so then we spend time working, and that chunk of time is dedicated to work. And so if the kids come in and want or need something within reason, I'll help them out. But otherwise, I say, no, this is now my work time. So I will help you with that, or I'll do that with you afterwards, after I'm done working. We'll do it in the evening, because the evening time is also then another chunk of family time. It's okay to chunk our time and be like, you know what? I want you to know I love you. You're the most important. I have to do this. I have to do this work, even if that's a few hours or whatever.
And
And
you're doing
then
your work while
yeah,
they're doing their work.
exactly.
We'll get into that in the next
Right.
episode.
And then I can give you my attention. I can give you my presence. I can slow down and be with you. And I found, at least for me, that having that dedicated time almost every day, because it doesn't necessarily happen every day, like that just helps me feel this sense of what she wants. Like she has a desired outcome from wanting to do these things. The sense of like, I'm doing a good job. I'm fulfilling my role as a mom. I'm enjoying my children's life. I get that sense when I practice these things and when I have that chunk of time to be able to be present with.
Mhm. Well, in that way, because what's happening is you're meeting all your needs and desires
Exactly.
and their needs and
Right.
desires.
And my business's needs and
Yep.
desires, and exactly all of
So-
the things are being met.
And it all comes down to being more strategic.
Yeah.
Like having marked, dedicated time to work well
Mm-hmm.
and to do all the things you need to do, where most of us are just frazzled and crazy and putting out fires everywhere and running around, and it's chaotic, it's hectic, it's overwhelming, and we're just a frazzled mess.
Right.
Instead of calm, strategic,
Deliberate,
thoughtful, like I know what
clear.
I'm going to do, I know what I need to do next, I'm going to do it.
Right.
Like, and I want to invite all of you to lean into this idea that even in the midst of chaos, which family life is chaotic, and then if you own a business on top of that, there's a lot of chaos. It's possible, in fact, preferable, to be calm and operate with a sense of urgency, but just keep your cool. There's no reason to just lose it.
Well, and it's very fascinating to me as well, because you don't realize this when you're in it, but when you step back and when you study it, it's actually better for us to operate that way. A lot of times, I know I especially used to do this, but I can still be tempted to do this sometimes. When you think about your business goals or your financial goals and you want to work on them, and you just think, I just need to work, 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 work all the time. Like that's the best thing I should do, nonstop work, because then that would help me. But I've learned from past experience that actually sabotages you, because as human beings, we work better when we can switch off. Like if I have a dedicated amount of time focused on building my business, but then at least, and I won't use the word every day, but I would say at least multiple times per week, I also stop working on that and I dedicate it to my family or to my relationship or whatever. It is actually better for my business. I will be more productive.
Yep.
I will have more clarity. I will have more insights. I will have more energy when I strategically disengage from my business and engage with my family. That's science backed right there. It just helps you be a better person overall, because you're not burning yourself out by just working nonstop on the one thing.
Yep. I love that. And this is a good lead into the next kind of big obstacle, is being controlling. So when you feel like you're leading effectively, you have great attachment and connection with your kids, you're taking care of your business, you're taking care of yourself, your kids actually listen to you, and you've got good things set up for them and they're following through, you don't have to be or feel like you need to be controlling. It's a very, very common thing for good parents to be controlling parents. But the outcome of controlling parents is that it creates either rebellious children or resentful children. And those are the outcomes. And so it backfires.
Yeah. So you actually don't get the results you want because you try to control the results. I mean, it's one of these ironies of the universe that the more we try to control certain outcomes, the less we get the outcomes we want. And it's really it really is this difficult balance I've found to try to find, because as driven people, and in fact, I mean, you and I live by mottos such as I'll either find a way or I'll make one, right? I mean, that sounds like the epitome of control, but we've also learned to balance that with this essence of surrender, right? And I think we got that early on from like Wayne Dyer, where he's ultimately like, you just have to surrender. You can have what you want, you can have the clarity, you can have the vision, but it's this weird dichotomy where you also have to just surrender it all, of like, this is what I want, this is what I'm going for, but I'm surrendering. And whatever happens, happens, right? And that's ironically what actually produces the outcomes you're after. And that's a difficult thing to do. It's especially difficult to do. I mean, it's difficult to do with everything: parenting, business, finances, but definitely with parenting. Like,
Well,
it's hard to find that balance of like, I'm going to set these expectations, but I'm also going to surrender, you know.
yeah, yes, totally. That's a hard one, and it's a hard one to understand. It's a hard one to
Right.
implement.
Even talking about it, I can see how it would be like, what? This is confusing.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
even
Let's
know
put it
what
like,
you're
well,
talking
I'm
about.
not surrendering. And again, we want such good things for our kids, and so we think I have to ensure
It
that
happens.
happens. And if we don't have the tools or the skills to guide it, then the only thing we think we can do is force it.
Mhm.
And you cannot force another human being without devastating consequences.
Mhm.
You literally will sabotage your family if you keep trying to control. Like, can I shout this to everybody listening? Stop trying to control your children or your
Mhm.
spouse. It will backfire. It already is backfiring. Like, it will not create the results you want.
Mhm.
This is why we see good people with good families,
Good
and their
intentions.
kids are rebellious or resentful.
Mhm.
Always. Like, I've never seen an exception to this.
Mhm.
And then they're like, oh, why does this happen? And then their kid, like, my kid's just rebellious. This is the way they are. And so then they double down and they're like, I'm going to be even more controlling and more strict. I'm going to force this to happen. And I'm like, all you're doing is creating more resentment, more distance, more rebellion.
I think even sadder than that, that's sad. But we've also seen the other side of the control, and the parents think they're producing the outcomes they want because their children outwardly, at least in front of them, are obedient to their desires. But what's sad for us, because we have this very unique insight into people's lives from leading trips, from, our teens' interactions, we get to see that behind the scenes, they are secretly rebelling, right? Or they're secretly resenting,
Yep.
even if their parents don't know about it. And
Yep.
that also is a failure in my mind.
All the time. It's so sad.
Kids are doing what you want, but inwardly they're secretly resenting it,
Yep.
will willingly obey when you're not around or they have the opportunity.
So they obey when you are around.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you're not, you turn your back or you go away, they're into
Right.
their rebellion.
Yeah.
And we see that all the time. And they tell us that. We have
Mhm.
this open, beautiful, trusting, safe relationship. And so people come and are like, yeah. And they'll either come, you're right, babe. They either come and say, they tell us how much they despise their parents, which is heartbreaking.
Or
they just come and they're
despise
just
the
like,
parents' roles, or despise the.
well, it's one or the other. It's like the deep resentment. Like, I can't stand them. I don't like them.
We see that.
And then the other side is, yeah, when they're not around, I just go do this other thing. I'm like, oh, it's so sad. And it's from good children and youth and young adults who want good things, and they rebel simply because you're so controlling. So
Mhm.
we bring this up to emphasize the heaven or hell philosophy there. You can have the heaven by guiding your kids to all those wonderful things that were listed in the question, or the hell by thinking you can force them and then they don't go there.
Right.
Or if they do go, it's usually this weak, submissive outcome. Like, what kind of adults do they become? They're just little submissive. They do exactly what they're told, but they struggle making their own decisions.
Or standing up for themselves.
Yep, exactly. Or being self-directed.
Mhm.
They just because they were just told what to do, and they just became submissive little underdeveloped beings to be acted upon.
Yes.
So the desire for those great outcomes is amazing. The implementation is what matters so much here. And even in the question, which was so great, she's like, she has enough self-awareness to be like, I try to control this and I'm not always pleasant
Instead, I'm
about it.
mean, strict,
Yeah.
controlling, and it pushes our kids away and causes resentment.
There
Yes,
it is.
that's the
Okay.
natural thing.
That's it. So it's like, here's what I want. Here's what I've been doing. That doesn't work. So I guess I'll send them to school,
She has self-awareness about this, which is powerful.
which is genius
Because
because a lot of people are clueless.
Yeah, they are. And that, to me, like, self-awareness is always the first step to creating change.
Yep.
Change a problem you're not aware of. So as soon as you begin to become aware of a problem, celebrate that, because that's good. When you recognize, oh, I'm pushing my kids away and I'm causing resentment, it's like, woohoo, you recognize that. Now you can begin to do something about
Well,
it.
and there's an important point right there where you said that. As soon as you recognize, you're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm being too controlling and mean and it's driving my kids away. Right there, you have a moment of thinking and decision. Because you could conclude, well, I guess I'm not fit to do this, so I'll send them away.
Yeah.
Or you say, well, okay, here's my chance. Here's the obstacle. Here's the impediment that is the way. I know controlling them won't work. So what do I do instead?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of throwing off our dreams, throwing off our targets, throwing off our goals, we stop and say, what can I do instead that will bring the outcome I want and the relationship I want?
Yeah. And it's a journey. I mean, you made it sound like right there in that moment, like that's the only chance we've got.
Well, no, it's the moment of decision,
Yeah,
right?
it's
There's
the
what I
moment of
meant, like
decision.
of clear thinking. You're like, and I literally see this every day. Well, this isn't working, so I guess I'll give up on my dream and do this. Or this is what I really want, but the way
don't
I'm
know
doing
how
it
to do
doesn't work,
that.
so I'll settle for something else.
Mhm.
It's that moment of decision where instead of choosing to go down a path you don't want, you stay on the path you do want, you just figure out how to do it differently.
Yeah.
It's that moment of
And
decision
I
is
think
critical.
that for many people, though, they don't necessarily consciously have that moment of decision
Right.
unless they have a coach. I mean, you do that every day because that's the point of coaching. You're working with people, helping them to make those moments of decision so they can alter their path. And instead of giving up on what they want, figure out how to, push past through the obstacles to get what they want.
Exactly.
Too many people just do the default of like, oh, well, I guess it's not possible. And so, I'll
go to
do what I
something
don't
else.
want to do
Yep.
just because
Or
I don't know what else to do.
settle for a less, right? You have, good, good, better, and best, and they want the best, and they're like, well, I'll settle for better, and I'll settle for good.
Right.
And so many good parents are settling for good.
Right.
Okay.
And I think that that's so important because, as we love to talk about with our tennis analogies, you know, it's not a matter of you being a good or a bad person, or of just this somehow misguided conception that you're either a good parent or you're not. That's not true. It's a skill you have to learn. And so if you sucked at tennis, you would just take some tennis lessons. Like, that's solves the problem, right? The same thing here. And that's why, that's why we have the podcast. That's why we do, because we're trying to get this message out here. Take some parenting classes, like get some coaching.
Get some coaching. So for this particular lady, you have a successful business, you have the funding and the financing, like sign up for coaching. Like, this is what we do. And I'd coach you through every aspect of this and go through the whole journey of like, implement this. And then as we're going along, okay, I did this, and here's what happened. Okay, now make this adjustment and make that adjustment. And you just get coaching through that entire journey, because what you're looking for is systems, strategies, tools, tactics,
tweaks
to make it really work.
Right.
And refine it. It's so doable.
Right. And that's the emphasis we want to give, is that all of these things, everything she's bringing up, are skills that can be learned, just like with anything else in life. So that's the mindset we really just want parents to get. Like, oh, this is something I can learn. This is a skill I can gain. But I want to give.
Hold on. I got to address this right now, because I guarantee there's people listening who are like, but I've tried everything.
Well, that's why I want to talk about the specific strategies of how to hold these standards without controlling, like without being the dictator, without forcing the outcomes. How, everything we just talked through. Well, okay, how do you actually do that? Let's talk through some of that, because that's where the rubber hits the road, right? So I think that, and this will tie back into my confusing remarks about surrendering and letting go and all of that. but I have to continue to emphasize these things because I know that at least for me, it's made a huge difference in my parenting approach and in my parenting outcomes. Because I know when I started out, I felt this need to just like control. Like I wanted to just make sure my kids did everything the right way and everything, the way I wanted it to do and the way that was perfect for them to become the perfect children I had envisioned. Like I know I felt that and that would come out in my parenting. And so as I learned to navigate this, and you guys know I love the yin and yang symbol. In fact, ironically, I remember I loved it since a child or a teen. Like I just loved the yin and the yang. And it represents to me this balance between two opposing forces, essentially. So you have this force of vision, of intention, of desired outcomes. And so in this case, it's the vision of your family and what you want it to become. Her whole beautiful list of like, I want them to be in science and math and fitness and financial management and cooking and cleaning, like all of these things. That's your vision. And it's beautiful and it's wonderful and it's necessary. We have to have visions like that. But then the opposing force is this control, this forcing, this making our family be perfect so that we can reach those outcomes that we want, right? And we have to learn how to have the appropriate amount of yin and yang between the vision and the implementation, right? So that then it becomes balanced and you have a mix of equal parts instead of one side completely taking over the other side, because that's when we get all of the things we don't want. That's when we get the unhealthy outcomes, the resentment, the rebellion. That's what comes from having one force being too strong in your life or in the family.
I think that's why a lot of people, when they come stay with us, they see that we're both super chill and super intense.
Yeah.
And we have the yin and the yang, and that it works like a champ. But if I'm super intense all the time with everything, the kids, there'll be a horrible reaction. If I'm super chill all the time, there'll be a horrible reaction. So either way creates a terrible outcome that you don't want.
Right.
So you have to find this balance, this art and the science of having a very high standards and holding them, and then having other aspects that really don't matter. And you're like, yeah, do whatever you want. Where we see a lot of parents, they're either, be free, child, do whatever you want. And there's no boundaries and kids can't function like that.
Work.
Or the parents are super strict and controlling with every little last thing. And it's insane. It's micromanaging and it is crazy. And that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So we'll be hardcore. Like there's certain things that just will not be allowed in our home, in our family, in our kids' life, period, hard stop. And then there's all kinds of things like, well, your choice, you get the consequences. Like you eat that donut, like no donuts in my house, right? You try to bring donuts in my house, those suckers are going right out to my pigs. I'm going, like giving them my pigs immediately. Like, what? Did you just bring that to my house? And I'll be fun about it and playful, but it's unacceptable. Like we can laugh, joke, that's really funny. They're going outside the pigs. I'm like, no, I just bought those. I don't give a crap. They're going out to my pigs. Right. And so we can be playful and hold the boundary. But then if we're out and about and they go and they're like,
activity,
where
they have donuts.
Why churches? They just want to kill all their members so they can send them to heaven and prepare them to heaven and killing them. So they offer it, and my kids are like, I really want a donut. I'm like, okay, man, it's your choice. Like you eating that won't affect my body, but I promise it'll affect yours. But it's your choice. And so they'll do it occasionally. Usually when they're little, and then they're like, "Oh, I feel so sick." I'm like, "Yep." And so, but we let them choose and make that choice,
making them feel bad or
like it's on you. We teach them and say, "Go ahead," and they'll have it. And then, but over time, they just eventually stop accepting it. Even at first, when they're little, like, "Oh, they gave it to me. What do I do with it?" I'm like, "Throw it away." And then later on, they just have the courage to say, "No, thanks. I don't want that. I don't eat that." And it's amazing. Then they make their own choices when we're not around.
Yeah,
that's the goal.
And while you're talking about this and I'm thinking about our lives and, these principles that we try to teach, I do realize that people get these misconceptions, like you mentioned before, where they think that we are just super strict parents, like everything is regimented, everything is scheduled, structured, strict, which is not the case. And so I'm trying to, in my brain here, like think about the difference. Like, what does it look like? Because we'll tell people like, oh, our kids aren't quote unquote allowed to have breakfast until they've done their morning routine, right? We're strict about morning routines. And so people probably imagine it's like, here we are, these drill sergeants of like, do your morning routine and then you can be
Standing
fed.
guard in the
Right.
kitchen, and you will be beaten if you cross the line.
Right.
It's like,
Or,
no.
you have to show up like a soldier and everything's perfect. And so as I'm thinking about that, I'm like, okay, yeah, we're strict about teaching the principle of the morning routine. That's a chunk of time in the morning where each of us are involved in our own personal morning routine. So, as far as the strictness goes, we're holding those boundaries of like, I'm doing my morning routine. I'm teaching you the principle of you should be doing your morning routine. For young ones, we outline what that could include, certain non negotiables like brushing your teeth, right? Or getting dressed or making your bed. But when it comes to implementation, they decide. That's where the freedom lies, I guess. If they want to get up and first brush their teeth and then make their bed, great. If they want to put on some whatever outfit, great. I'm not dictating what they wear and how it looks and this and that. They get to choose what they're wearing. And oftentimes I'm like, well, it's a little sloppy. But the point is, I'm not controlling every little aspect of their lives. The rule is morning routines because that's a principle we live in our life because it's valuable. But how that morning routine looks like for you and when you do it and how you do it and where you do it, you get to decide all of those factors. And so, in a way, that becomes this framework because then we simply repeat that process throughout the day. Like that's repeated with study time, that's repeated with work time, chore time. It's a formula that's repeated of like, here's the boundaries, but within those boundaries, you decide how it plays out.
Yep.
Right? You decide for yourself how you live this aspect of your life.
And it works so well. Like, I can't remember the last time we had to, like, quote, enforce it.
Right.
You just model it, teach it, model it, teach it, hold the boundary a little bit, just a couple of times. And then they love it. They're in it. They want to do it.
Yeah. And they do it automatically.
Guests come over. I mean, your mom came to stay with us. She was like, this boy's bedroom is amazing.
And it was funny at the time. I was like, oh, it's a little bit messy right now. That was my thought. But to her, it was clean. Like our teenage boys.
Yeah, because they get up, they make their beds, they keep their stuff organized and neat. I mean, it's teenage boys.
Yeah.
And our daughters.
Well, and our little girls too.
Like they love the cleanliness. So, and I just hear endlessly from youth and teens and young adults, their rooms are just trash cans. I mean, it's just like hurricane disasters. I had a new coaching client recently. I was like, hey, what's your bedroom like? It's a mess. I just, like, okay, like right there.
Right.
That should be going on. And so it's getting them to be self-directed, which we'll talk more about in the next episode, leading them there. In fact, I want to emphasize that a little bit right now because it feels like as a mom or a dad, you have to do everything. Like I got to have my hands on everything. I got to be controlling because I want them to do all this stuff. Like, and how can I possibly be at home, help them with, connect with them, love them, help them with school and run my business? Like it just seems impossible. But the golden ticket is they become self-directed.
Right. And so initially there is that training period where it is more hands-on. Like when I was implementing whenever I'm setting up a charts and systems, which, I have an entire course on charts and systems, but I always have moms starting with the morning routine because that helps your child learn the habit of 1, following a chart, 2, following a routine, and 3, becoming self-directed. And so when you start with that morning routine, yeah, it's more hands-on because you're showing them what to do and how to do it, especially when they may have no concept of it whatsoever. So I'm helping them make their bed so that they know what that looks like. I'm helping them brush their teeth so they know what counts as brushing teeth, and it's not just like 2 seconds of this, right? I'm helping them get dressed and put their clothes where it's supposed to go. So they're learning like, oh, this is what that means. When you say do this, or it's on my chart, this is what it looks like. It includes putting the clothes in the hamper, not just throwing them on the floor when I take them off, right? So it is more hands-on and intensive originally, but once you set that up and then hold them accountable, well, it becomes automatic. Now my girls just do that as soon as they get up. Well, all of my children, but specifically my youngest girls, just do it as soon as they get up because that's what they've learned. And along with that, help them grow this desire for them to want to do that because they recognize, first of all, that's what all of us do. We're all doing the same thing, right? We're all putting our clothes away in the hamper when we get dressed. We're all making our beds. So they realize it's not just something expected of only them, but then they see that, oh yeah, this is a great way to be in the world. This, like, it feels good, it feels productive, it feels meaningful, it feels,
Well, and we make it attractive.
yeah.
The whole lifestyle is attractive, so they're drawn to it. They want to do it. Love it. So you guys, if you want more tools and strategies, join Rachel's Family Life Coaching Program, or
Specifically our 10 series workshop that's going on right now, where we're talking through all of these different aspects.
Yep. And there's so much to it, and you can come ask your very specific questions. And every time we meet, we're giving you very specific skills and strategies. Every parent needs to be actively involved in learning about parenting strategies, because parenting is the most difficult thing you'll ever do in life. It is so complex and so challenging and so rewarding. It's wonderful. And then for the men, I have the Formidable Family Man Tribe, and it's amazing, where we get together as a brotherhood of good men, and we get to be with other good men, family men, as we're going along through life, figuring out all the things for fitness, family, and finances. So the resources are there. Invest in it. Invest in your family so that you can create and live your extraordinary family life. Love you guys. Reach upward.